Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's well, and I hope everything is doing well with you and your family, and that you've been able to plug away with your classes and everything, and moving close either to graduation or at least the next semester. Welcome again to another series of videos chats. We're going to be talking today about building your professional network. Happy to be doing this again, and happy to see so many more students coming in and joining us for this discussion. So we're going to just get started and plow right ahead with building your professional network. So let's get started. All right, so number one, let me just kind of give you an idea of what we're going to be covering today. First, I should share who I am. My name is Keith O'Crusy. I'm the Student Career Programs Manager in the Career Development Services Office at Hunter College. I've been working with Hunter College for a little over 13 years now, and I've worked closely with both alumni and students in all different fields and majors, and happy to be continuing to do so, and now virtually, of course, as we're still managing with social distancing. So networking, of course, is going to be a little different now than you may have typically been used to, but there's still plenty that you can do now to get yourself prepared for when we do go live and meet with others in person again. And also now there are a lot of opportunities for you to meet with others virtually. So I'll cover a few resources in addition to just some general tips on networking that will help you through this time. All right, so first, this is what you'll expect to get out of today's discussion. Number one, how to leverage your own contacts. Many of you might be a little intimidated by that term networking. You know how important it is, but maybe you're a little bit shy or a little hesitant to get started with that. So realizing that actually getting started with your own network and thinking about professionals and individuals either within your family, your friends, your network of people that you've either worked with or that you've gone to school with could be a good place to get started and to get used to that process. Second, I'll be going over LinkedIn as a way to link with professionals to learn more about different industries and also to find people that are working in your field of interest. And finally, we'll be covering some strategies in networking, including what to say, how to say it when making those new connections, as well as setting up meetings with people that you already have contacts with. All right, so thank you, Alexander. Hope you're doing well as Alexander. Hope you're doing well as well. Thank you so much. All right, so a couple of things first. So number one, this session is being recorded. And we will make that available on the Career Development Services website and on our social media pages. So be sure to check that out. We did make the cover letter video that we recorded last Thursday live. And so that way, if you missed out on anything today, or maybe if you know of others who perhaps didn't get a chance to view this video, or if you have to jump out early, you can just go on our social media pages and check that out. We usually have that ready by early to mid week. So be sure to check that out. And then the other important note is that you are welcome to participate and ask questions. So you could either raise your hand, or I have my chat box up. So I'll try to monitor that as well and answer any questions that you might have throughout the video interview. Or if you want to unmute your mic, you're welcome to. Be happy to hear what questions you may have. And then finally, again, I'm sure you're all going to be very professional, but I just want to note that this is being recorded. So keeping it clean is, of course, very important. All right, so let's just get moving with the networking process. So for one, you're in this workshop because perhaps you have had some hesitation in starting your process of networking, or maybe you've started networking, but there are some things that have worked and things that may not have worked so well, and you want some more guidance and more ideas about what to do to really make the most of your network and to make new connections. So number one, you don't want to feel intimidated by that. So what are some of the reasons? Let's start with that. Number one, you might feel intimidated by the process. So you might hesitate to start networking because you feel that it's difficult to meet new people. Perhaps, as I said before, maybe you're a little shy, or you're not sure exactly what to say. Or you might feel, well, there's not anybody in my own network or anybody that I know in the profession that I'm interested in. And so, what can I do to get started? And so that whole process, because networking and networking effectively can take time and it takes practice, can perhaps be a little intimidating at first. But this is, I think, a good way to get started, just kind of hearing out some tips and ideas and realizing that it's really just as easy as meeting new people and making connections, of course. Don't know how to find professionals in your field of interest. Right, I mean, being a student, you may not have had a chance yet to do an internship perhaps, or perhaps, you still haven't really made a good, strong mark in your field of interest at this point. And so you might feel that your network is limited. And the reality is that perhaps, that might be the case at this point, but you can start making some headway. And there's some great resources that we'll be going over today that will help you to meet with new people and leverage the contacts that you currently have to perhaps see who people in your own network, who they may know. And then again, really tied to this is that you don't have contacts within your own network. You never know though. You might think that some of the friends and family that you have don't have any relationship at all with some of the people that you're interested in working with. Maybe nobody in your family is in the field of healthcare, or nobody in your family has been in investment banking or something along those lines. But you never know if you really haven't asked quite yet, and you just make those assumptions. Maybe you know that some of the people that you are in your family or in your friends network, that they are doing certain jobs and they're working in certain industries, but you may not know who they know. So definitely asking is always a good way of breaking out of that box. And then finally, there's not enough time. It obviously, as a student, especially now that it's become more challenging going online and making so many transitions, and also doing double duty with perhaps some work schedules that you have and maybe family responsibilities. It's not easy to get out there and to maybe go to events or go to functions or even go online and check out webinars. So you might feel that there's just not enough time to start making those connections and start expanding your network. But the reality is that, sure, that probably is the case, and I'm sure there are probably various challenges that you might have. But if you think about how you can organize your time effectively and what you'd like to get out of your networking experience, you can carve out that time and make it worthwhile and find a little bit that you can do throughout the weeks that will help you to make new connections and to develop the ones you already have. All right, so let's move on to what you can actually start doing. So number one is to start by developing a strategy. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is exactly what is your current objective with your network? Are you looking to do an internship, or are you looking to apply for job opportunities? Or do you just want to learn more about the field that you're interested in entering? Or perhaps have you already started? Maybe you're at the entry point of your career and you want to start advancing within your career, maybe moving into promotional titles, or maybe moving to another company. So start identifying what is it exactly that you need to achieve through your networking, so that as you are going through that process, you can really define those goals, and it'll also make it a lot clearer when you're having those connections and when you're having those meetings. Again, really think about who your current network is. And this is going to help you get started with this whole process. So I would encourage you to get out a sheet of paper, write down anybody that you might know. And I would encourage you to, on the same sheet of paper, write down maybe their job titles, maybe think about meetings you might have had before with them, or even if you've had a conversation with them about your career plans or what you're doing in college. And if you haven't, maybe it's a good time to start having those conversations with people that you already know. Again, these could be people in your family, these could be friends, these could be colleagues in your classes, so that you could open up that dialogue. And then if either you're struggling, or maybe if you have some questions, or you're looking at internships, and you never know, they may say, hey, I know somebody who's actually working at this company, or they've just started here, and so forth. Or if anything, maybe they don't have anything right now, but they'll be thinking about that. And if something comes their way, I'm sure they might be inclined to share that information with you, and make sure that you're making the right connection. And so also now is a good time to start thinking about how to utilize social media platforms, particularly LinkedIn, as it's a really good way for you to meet with people, to find professionals working in your industry, to build your online personal brand. So I would say that now is a good time to carve out to become familiar with the platforms and learn about the different features, and to start using it to either search for people working in your field, or maybe find some groups that you could join and follow their news feeds, maybe even commenting on their news feeds, so that as you are going through the process, you're finding new people that you could connect with, or even starting to make those connections. Developing an online brand. So now is also a good time to really think about, how you could present yourself to a potential employer. What do you want to say to other contacts, people who might go on your LinkedIn profile? How do you want to share who you are, or how are you defining yourself as a professional? And that, of course, does take time, but it starts with some of the things that are important for you, some things that you feel you're really good at, things that you've accomplished already, things that you may want to highlight from whether it's your internships, your job experiences, or even your college experience and what you've been doing in your extracurricular activities or within your studies. Start collecting that information, including that information on your LinkedIn profile, just as you would on your resume, and continue to expand from there, and add skills, add strengths, and so forth. As I said before, I'm going to go through a LinkedIn profile to give you an idea about how to do that. But it's now is definitely a good time to start thinking about how you can present yourself to potential contacts that are out there. And then the final thing with regards to your strategy is to start researching the industry that you're planning on entering. There are a lot of really tremendous organizations that exist out there. There are professional associations for any given profession that exists. And you can find that information either through your faculty members, you can find that information through your internships or your jobs, or through industry contacts. In addition, the Career Development Services website has a whole list of professional associations in different industries. And professional associations are a great way to learn about different parts of the fields that you're planning on entering. Also, these are organizations that consist of professionals who work in your field. So there might be events that you could attend, or webinars that you could check out, or even virtual Zoom chats that are available out there. So it's definitely suggest that you take advantage of some of those industry resources to learn more about what's your field, but also to take advantage of resources that those organizations provide. Okay. All right. So making the most out of your connections. So as I said earlier, you may have a wider network than you even know. So the first thing that you should do, as I've already said, is to write out who those professionals are, or even family and friends are, that are in your contact network, and think about who potentially could be a good source of information for you. It would be really just be great to help you with throughout this process. Whether it's sharing information, sharing links, maybe sharing a website that you didn't know about before, or maybe connecting you with a friend of theirs that are working in the business that you're interested in. And that you will not know that unless you ask. So make it known that your plans are to obtain an internship in social services, or to maybe do an independent research study in the field of biomedicine. You never know what people have, what they're connected to. And if anything, it's always good to share what you're doing and to share what your interests are as well. So it's a part of the process, and it's good, even if people aren't necessarily going to have those contacts, for you to just kind of get used to talking about yourself, being proud of what you're doing, being proud of what your next steps are. And the other important part of this process is setting up those meetings with professors and maybe managers that you work with now. They could be managers that are in your internships, but of course they also could be managers that you work with in other fields, just to start having a conversation about the field that you're planning on pursuing, your achievements, things you're good at, things your strengths, what your strengths might be. And again, it's another way for them to see that you're serious about your career, and for them to start thinking about how they can help you in some way. All right, so making new connections. When it comes to finding new people that perhaps aren't in your current network, I've already mentioned these organizations and college groups earlier, but find those organizations that are affiliated with your field of interest, as I said, there's many times for you to congregate and meet with other people through those organizations. They have a vested interest in making sure that professionals and soon-to-be professionals in those fields are connected. It's a big part of what they do. So make sure that you do your research and find those organizations and start checking out the resources that they provide so that you can connect with people that are working in the fields you're interested in. Go to the career page of target companies. Especially larger organizations have newsletters or other events that they host. But definitely go to those career pages of these organizations, whether it's a major hospital that you're interested in working with, or an investment bank, or a research center, or a government agency. It's a good way for you to connect not only with jobs that are being listed, but you might find that there are events that those organizations host, whether it's an information session that they're hosting for potential candidates, or even a networking session so that they can start to make connections early and identify talent early in the process. So, you won't know that if you're not tapped into those companies. So I would say that a good time to start doing that is now. Really go on those company websites and do your research. The social media platforms, LinkedIn, again, I'm going to go through that at the very end of the session, is a really great way for you to find, and you might even find alumni that are working in your industry, which is a good way to start to expand that network. But you can use LinkedIn and other resources to find people that are working at companies that you're interested in, and through that process, you can meet with them, connect with them, ask them questions if they are open to connecting with you. And the other nice thing about LinkedIn, for example, is that once you connect with one person at a company, it makes it a lot easier for you to connect with others and to get referrals as well. Also, another part of that process is to write commentary on those social media channels and company blogs. Those are ways that will help you to get noticed. So if you are sharing your thoughts, especially if they're really good thoughts, things you've been, have put some thought into, and start sort of following or writing about and commenting on, posts. These could be announcements, these could be news articles, these could be things that the organization shares, or you could post a comment on their news feed or on their blog. These are things, especially if they're thoughtful comments, that definitely are organizations, human resources, recruiters, they do pay attention to that. And the more that you do that, those are things that also through LinkedIn will be shared on your profile. And again, it's another good way of building and expanding on your personal brand. But the other thing is, again, people who are at those companies that you might be putting in those comments on may take notice of that. All right. So definitely a good thing to start thinking about. And if you need some guidance on that, you may want to just follow those feeds, see what other people are saying, maybe do a little bit of homework on your own, think about things you might want to share, maybe questions that have come up, maybe things you found out that other people aren't talking about, and post that on there. Another really important way to find people that are outside of your current network is through your hobbies, through things you're just interested in. A great way to connect with others isn't always necessarily through that, talk about work and talk about an industry. Sometimes it's just what we like to do, whether it's maybe it's gardening, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's other languages. There's so many ways that we can connect with other people. And if you connect with somebody, again, either through an event or through an online social media platform that you can share interests with, you never know, where that could lead. And that definitely, that other person who shares those same interests and connects with you in a different way, maybe they'd be very happy and willing to share information about internship opportunities or jobs or other information and helpful resources to get you started in your career. Now, there's a website called meetup.com. And there are meetups that are doing virtual events. So meetup.com is a social media platform that it connects people who have like similar interests. So you do create a profile, but it's not like LinkedIn where you are you're kind of expanding on that profile and going through all the sort of summary of what you've done. It's more about sharing your interests and finding places to meet up and to connect over similar interests. It could be for a program or a show or an event or something like that. Now, obviously now with social distancing, that's not happening. but they are they are doing virtual events. So I would suggest checking out meetup.com if you haven't been on that page before. Browse through their pages, browse through some of the meetup groups that they have, and join some that you're interested in, and see if they have any virtual events that you can participate in. And then, of course, participate in those networking events when this social distancing is finally over. All right, definitely a good way to, thank you, Teresa. It is also an app. Very good. Thank you for that comment. It is also an app. So if you're more comfortable using it on your devices, by all means, check that out. All right, cool. So the next thing I want to go into is preparing for meetings. So when it comes to preparing for meetings, the first step is to do your research. LinkedIn is a great way to find out more information about people, of course, because people will share their public information, whether it's where they've gotten their degree or where they've been working. And so it's a great way for you to gather that data and maybe come up with questions that you could ask through that information online. So in advance, really good way to get yourself prepared. Being clear with your objectives. So before you start that meeting, it's important for you to really think about what you want to get out of the meeting, what you want to present to that person, but also the kind of questions that you want to ask. If you go in and either you're too intimidated and you just are kind of open-ended and don't really have a plan of action, or if you aren't clear exactly what your objectives are, it could be that the meeting doesn't go very far. The person may not necessarily take you seriously, or they could be doing all the talking, and you might not get very much out of it. You might say, oh, well, I left the meeting and all they said was that they would share my resume with somebody else, and that was 3 weeks ago, and I hadn't heard anything, right? So be very clear with the process. You don't have to feel like you have to tell that person what to do, but it's good to share what you'd like to get out of that. So if you are, let's say, setting up a online virtual chat or a Zoom meeting with somebody that you've connected with through a professional organization, or maybe a professor has recommended that you meet with somebody to start building connections. When you reach out to them, you can say, at this point, I'm looking to obtain an internship in the field of social research. And you can explain what your degree is and what you've done in your internship. And finally, explain, what you plan on doing. It could be that you're interested in asking questions or learning more about opportunities at their organization. The other thing is, a lot of times in these meetings, you're not gonna be the one doing the talking. You're gonna be the one asking questions. So start thinking about questions that are first focused really about learning more about the field of interest. So start thinking about, what you'd like to learn about the fields, information that perhaps you might not know, things that you don't know about just through those online descriptions about what that internship or that job is. So start drafting out those questions that will help you to learn more about that person and learn more about the field. And then the other important thing is to really avoid asking about sharing your resume with contacts. I would say that it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if somebody invites that. If they say, oh, I'd be happy to share your resume, or I know about an internship and you might be a really great fit. That's certainly appropriate, but make sure even in that case that you know exactly what that internship is, where that resume is going, what that internship program is. And it's better not for you to say, oh, can you share my resume, with so-and-so, because you never know where that's going to go. And the other problem is that, they might say, oh yeah, sure. And then you don't hear anything from them. So you want to keep it focused more so on learning information and getting to know that person, so that as you go through the process, if things come up, they may be willing to help you through that experience. All right. So these are some things to ask. So if you're going on a meeting, and this could be with somebody that you may know, or somebody that might be a new contact, really helpful to start with what their career story is. How did they get their start? Where did they go to school? What inspired them to do what they do? What were some of the moments that maybe made changes that changed for them, that made them maybe go in a new direction? Get to know them a little bit more. Really helpful, even if you see that profile that shows what they've done. really helpful for you to just kind of get to know exactly what it was like for them to maybe move from this industry to that industry, or for them to get started and what kind of challenges they had experienced. What trends are happening in the industry? What do you expect might happen in the future? You know, they're the ones immersed in the field. They know what's happening within the field, you know, what the challenges are, things you may not have been exposed to. And this could be very helpful for you as you go on interviews and you start thinking about how you can use your skills within the field, because you can sort of anticipate what the needs are, what the expectations are, what employers are looking for. What would be a good way to get started in this field? So of course, you know, some advice about, you know, what resources, you know, what are some good ways to kind of get your foot in the door, what is expected of the industry. And certain professions and certain industries might have very specific ways of sourcing talented professionals. Some fields like the arts, for example, could be very competitive. A lot of it has to do with, you know, talent and things that are very subjective, and some of it has to do with your finesse and the ability to connect with others, and if somebody had noticed your work, for example. Whereas other fields might be a little bit more straightforward. So a lot of corporations, for example, most people have to apply online, and you might go to recruiting and networking events to start making connections. So it could be very different based on the industry and the field you're entering. The resources, so definitely, you know, ask them about resources that are important within the field. Again, that could be professional associations, meetings, major conferences that they know about that maybe that you could be aware of, go to, maybe they'd be willing to take you with them, those sort of things, you know, would be great to learn about. So that you can learn more about the field and get more acquainted with your industry. The skills that are successful within the field, always great to know about, you know, what's important, what's relevant for professionals. It will help you think about what you can highlight in your resume. It will help you think about things you need to talk about in your interview. And it could also be an opening for you to talk a little bit about yourself. You know, if they mention some skills that are important, you could share some of the things you've done where you've developed those skills or used those skills in with internships you've had. And then any contacts that you could connect with. It's great to ask if maybe there's 2 other people that they'd be willing to connect you to, so that you can expand that that network. You should always leave. You should always close that meeting with that question, so that you're continuing to develop your network. All right. Finally, how to make introductions with new contacts. So let's say now you've gone to an event and you're at a networking. Oh, do you have somebody has a question? No? All right, that's fine. All right, so so let's say you're at a networking event. You want to be open and ready to chat. Make sure that when you're at those sort of programs that you're ready to you know, ready to meet new people. You're not intimidated by the experience, by the process. That there are excuse me, I'm just have to switch to outdoors because my 4-year-old son is decided to put the TV a little loud. That you're open and ready to chat. Again, you know, I know that it might be a little intimidating to meet new people and to share a little bit about yourself. So again, be open and ready to chat. Again, it may be a little intimidating to meet with new. That's okay. To meet with new people, but don't worry about that. You know, just go in realizing, you know, nobody's going to get angry with you. Nobody is going to be upset with you at all. If you meet with new people, if they don't seem too friendly, it's fine. You know, again, just go there with a good attitude if you're going to an event. And realize that there could be something that you'll learn from that experience, you know, by just being at that program. You know, when it comes to going to events and meeting new people, think about things that maybe are universal about your setting. So let's say, for example, you go to a panel discussion within an industry that you're planning on pursuing. Be open to when you know, maybe it's after the panel and they have a networking portion. Talk to those other people about the panel, mention something that you've learned, ask some questions about why they came. You know, maybe you could talk about the food if it's a catered event, say, oh, this is a pretty good dip. You know, it's just a way of just starting the conversation. And then from there, you can talk a little bit about, you know, yourself, or ask some questions about who they are. Of course, important to introduce yourself. You know, so say who you are. introduce, yourself, and also mention, perhaps what you're doing. You're a college student at Hunter College, and you're pursuing a particular major, you're planning on going into a certain field, and so forth. The big thing here is really asking questions about who that person is. What brought them to that event itself? What do they do in their work? What kind of school, where do they go to school? These are things that just keep that conversation going. Remaining engaged, smiling, continuing to ask questions, feeling comfortable talking about yourself and sharing what you've done is a good way of keeping things moving. So before you go into an event, maybe think about certain stories that you could share, things that you might be, happy to talk about, things that are funny, things that are interesting, to help people to get to know you a little bit better. And when you're finished with that conversation, you could ask them about, ask them if they have a business card. So here's a good way of closing out a conversation. You could say, it was a pleasure meeting with you. Do you have a business card? Or would you mind if I reached out to you to learn more about your field? All right. So it's definitely, good to be comfortable. It's definitely good to be comfortable about that. So I'm sorry, I think Teresa, you had a comment. Oh, okay. That was just a comment about something else. Sorry about that. All right, finally. So moving on, a few general tips about networking. Remember to be respectful of other people's time and resources, right? So even though, of course, this is a process that you're, using to help yourself out and helping yourself to get access to new connections, get your foot in the door within companies you're interested in working for. You do want to be mindful of those other people's time that, they might be very busy with the work that they're doing, may have other responsibilities. So think about, what would be a good timeline to follow up with them, be respectful of that process, maybe even ask them, if it would be okay if you could follow up with them, in a week or 2 weeks, just to sort of share, what's going on or ask questions. Again, don't be afraid of that process. It might be a little intimidating at first, but you will find that many people will want to be willing to help you out. And many people who are in the field, they want to make sure that talented people get into their companies. And so if you're proactive, if you're showing that you're interested in the field, if you're learning more about the organization through events, it's showing that you're doing what you should be doing as a professional, which is becoming involved. And so, when somebody who is in the field and wants to make sure that field is thriving, they want to make sure that talented people are getting in. And so if you go to these sort of events and make those connections, you're really just going to show that you're willing to do what it takes to make it happen, and many people will recognize that and will want to help you. Keep your attention focused on learning. Again, it's not about that immediate internship that you get from that one contact that you meet. So think about again, when you're framing your questions, focus on learning about the field, and every one of those meetings will help shape what you're doing in your process, from the cover letters that you write to the resume and how you're tailoring it to the certain jobs that you're interested in, or even identifying organizations and jobs that you didn't even know existed because that you found out about just by having those conversations and those meetings with people. It's also a good practice to follow up with your contacts regularly. Thank them, of course, through the process, but also, make sure that you're keeping them appraised of what's going on in your life. So if, let's say, you've gotten an internship, I would suggest you definitely share that with that person, especially, of course, if that person was the one who made that connection for you. Just reach out and say, hey, thank you so much for letting me know about that opportunity. I want to let you know that I got the internship. I'm so excited and so, grateful for you to help me with the process. Or, if anything, and things haven't really surfaced quite yet, reach out after maybe a month or so, share with them an interesting article, and just let them know that you're thinking about them. And then again, remember to stay positive and smile. All right. Definitely, you want to show that you're that you want to make connections, and that's a part of the experience is making connections with other people. All right. So let's go through LinkedIn briefly. I'm going to show you my profile, and I'm going to use this my profile just to kind of walk you through a few things. So what you can see here are just some of my basic sort of information. Here, my job title is going to be the first thing, but you can edit that. So if, let's say, for example, the first thing that pops up in your profile is your job title, and you haven't quite started in your field yet, maybe you're still working in a part-time job, and you have that on your LinkedIn profile, you could change that. It could be aspiring, social research scientist, studying sociology at Hunter College, for example. You could also add a summary here as well. So you could add a brief description of who you are, what your aspirations are, things you've done. Again, anything that you might have commented on or posted will be also shared at the very beginning of your profile. And also you'll see that all of your experience will be listed. Now, what I've done here is instead of writing bulleted lists that you would normally find on a resume, I've written more of a paragraph style. It's good to be brief here, and I think that having the narrative, just because somebody will read this and it's a way for them to get a sense of who you are in terms of your personality. I think using the narrative sort of approach is a lot stronger. And then at the bottom, you'll find that you could also add things like volunteer experience, other groups that you've joined, any recommendations that you've shared, or that recommendations that other people have shared on your profile. So if you are making connections with people on LinkedIn, ask them if they would be willing to write a recommendation for you, and be open to writing recommendation letters for others. And that could be something that will be published right on your profile, and other people can also see what you have said about others. So I think that also shares a really great message. Now, the other important component here is to use the search features of LinkedIn. And the other thing I think is really important as well with regards to LinkedIn is the fact that LinkedIn, everything on your profile, well, at least the majority of it, especially if you're working at larger groups, is editable. I'm sorry, not editable, but linkable. So you can link, for example, to Hunter College, and then when you click there, this is going to bring you to the Hunter College LinkedIn page. And here you can see alumni who've gone to Hunter College. Oh, sorry, I'll have to log into the site to see that information. Gosh, sorry about that. We're running at all cylinders on this workshop here. I'm sure that for those of you who are seeing this as a recorded version, you'll get a lot of laughs out of this one. All right, so everything on your profile you can link to, and it really makes it easier for you to find people and to make connections. All right, so the first thing I would suggest is to do a search. If you go to your profile at the top and click on search, you can do combined searches for people. So if you go to all filters, you can put in, let's say, a specific industry. Maybe you're interested in advertising. Okay. And maybe you want to find some Hunter College students that are in that field. Oops, sorry about that. All right, hit apply. And so this is going to give you professionals who have Hunter College on their profile and are working in that industry. So I'll just take a look at Frederick Joseph's profile. You can see here that Frederick is now principal consultant at Frederick Consulting. Looks like he started perhaps his own business there. And if you scroll down, you'll also see all of the other things that he's done. He's completed his master's at NYU, but his BA degree was at Hunter College. And so what you could do is you could connect with Frederick. You could send a message to him, especially if maybe you're not a direct contact with him. It's always a good practice to send a very brief message to that person, letting them know about that you want to connect with them and why. And then that person will receive that information, that message, and then they'll connect with you. The other thing is that when you connect with people, you can also see who's in their contacts. And so, if you, as you can see here, you can also see other people that have viewed the same contact person. And if you go back to your contacts, you can also see other people that that are in your own network that have a connection with that person. Another feature is by searching for company. So if, for example, you're interested in looking at a company like Goldman Sachs, number one, you have the ability to follow that company, and that's where you can get the news feed. Also, companies can see that you are following them on your profile, and that'll show up on your profile as well. So again, when it comes to branding your personal, your network, your professional network, this is a good way to start doing that. So let's say you're interested in Goldman Sachs. This is going to be their LinkedIn profile page. And here, if you go to people, you'll be able to see different people who have a LinkedIn profile. And, you know, again, you can also see that broken down by school. And again, here you can see the people that are working at that company, and see if there are anybody, if there's anybody who may be working in divisions that you're interested in, or maybe you've gone to your school before, or maybe your connections with other people that you know. All right. So another really important feature of LinkedIn, and the other thing is to search for groups. So if, for example, you're interested in working in accounting, you can check out this group, Big Four Accounting Consulting, and this is a group for people who are looking at working at the larger accounting firms. And groups is where you can start sharing your ideas. You can start a conversation. You can post information on the page, and also see what other people are sharing. You can comment on those things. So again, a good way for you to get more familiar with what's going on and what people are talking about, and also to see some of the people that are more involved and more you know, engaged in the discussion, and also again for you to share your own thoughts as well. So that's kind of where I'm going to stop with LinkedIn. And we're coming a little bit to the close of the session as well, but I hope you found that information helpful for you. Hold on, I'm just trying to find my page here. I hope that now, after today's discussion, these are some things you feel a little bit more confident being able to do, that you can now leverage your own contacts, thinking about some of the ideas that we've talked about earlier, realizing that there probably are people in your network that are doing the very same thing that you're interested in pursuing, or maybe know others that do, that you are a little bit more familiar with LinkedIn, how to build your profile, how to use the features to find people. And also you have some ideas about how to have those meetings with people, what to say, how to start building and planning that strategy. Again, we are still available, so I'd welcome you to connect with us. My direct email is right there on the screen. It's kokrossi@hunter.cuny.edu. And of course, you can also reach out directly to Career Development Services, career@hunter.cuny.edu, for any general questions for the Career Development Services team. And then finally, I'm going to share a couple of things that are coming up. So we're going to be doing this again next Thursday on April 23rd at 1 p.m. again. And on that, at that time, I'm going to be talking about how to prepare for the virtual career fair. So the end of the month, April 29th, in Career Hunter, you can chat live with companies that are interested in connecting with Hunter students and have active job and internship opportunities. You could see the list of organizations now. So if you log into your Career Hunter account, you could see who's going to be live. It's basically chats. It's a chat room sort of platform. So it won't be a video format, but you can share you know, questions, and you can share information about yourself directly with hiring managers. And that's going to be on Wednesday, April 29th. But next Thursday, I'm going to be going over how to make the most out of that virtual career fair. On Wednesday, April 22nd, that's an event, a virtual information session with an advertising firm called Vayner Media. So you definitely should check that out. We're going to have information about that on Career Hunter, and we'll be sending out an email blast about that very soon. And then we'll also be hosting an interview workshop by Apple. So they'll be sharing you know, what to do on an interview, how to write your resume, what employers expect and what they're looking for. You can see the details about that event through Career Hunter as well. And then finally, keep checking our social media pages, keep checking our emails, and you'll find out all the information about what we're doing to help our students. I see there's a question here. You'll have a class next Thursday, but you can watch the video call later. Sure, of course. And yeah, we do plan on recording this, and I did see that there was a question about that. So I'll definitely talk to you about that, to share the link of the recorded video session. And then, and yes, I think you wanted to share that by email. That'll be fine. And then, yes, there is a, Hazel, there was a writing cover letter workshop last Thursday. So if you missed that, that's available on the social media channel. So we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. But if you want, and of course, if you have any individual questions, I'd be happy to set up a Zoom call, or you can email me directly if you want to share your resume, or if you want to share your cover letter, or if you have other questions. All right, so with that, I'm going to sign off. Excuse me. Thank you for sticking it in there. I guess we're all adjusting to. You're very welcome, Hazel. Thanks for sticking it in there with me, and it was a real pleasure. Good to see the thank yous from all of you. It was always a pleasure. Be safe, of course. Thank you. All right, so I hope you enjoyed. Good luck, everybody. I hope to see you next Thursday. Hopefully, you'll be able to take advantage of some of those other programs, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.